There's nothing, not my children's smiles or their love or anything, sex, that is better than getting into my bed. Welcome to Not Right Now, the podcast about parenting through all of this.
The sink is full of blood right now in our bathroom because, let's see, what's the best way to tell this story? I'll just say, after a lot of drama back and forth about basketball and girls' basketball, Paul came out of the shower and looked at me and smiled. And then I noticed that blood was pouring out of his nose. And I said, "You have a bloody nose." So anyway, he went to bed. I went, anyway, whatever. All you need to know is that the sink is full of dried blood. And so one of his jobs when he gets home from school is to clean the blood out of the sink, because I don't think I should have to do that. Do you agree?
I
Do
don't
you think I
think you
should?
No, I don't think you should have to do that. I told one of my kids this morning, I don't remember which one. I said, "How'd you sleep?" They're like, fine." I was like, you should know, like, you shit yourself every night for the first 3 years of your life. And I cleaned it up that was the first thing I did every morning. And then I had 2 other babies shit to clean up. So 1, you're sleeping better than that. And 2, I am just thankful that it's not my fucking job anymore. You know?
Yes, indeed. How did you sleep last night?
Not great. Not great. Here's the thing. I've decided once a week, I'm going to treat myself to 3 Advil liquid gels, and
Whoa.
I sleep so much better when I do it. I did not do that last night, and I was like, this was the night I should have done it. It truly, a gummy and 3 Advils is fucking incredible. It's incredible. So I'm hoping tonight's tonight. I'm pretty excited.
So when you can't sleep, do you do anything to offset that? Or or you just toss and turn and make Dana miserable?
All the above. I actually messaged a friend the other day. I love reading. I love books, but I'm old. So I get into bed, and the only way besides marijuana that my brain turns off at night is I read fiction. And I only get like 2 pages in, right? Because I'm just fucking tired. It's great. Brain turns off. I'm fine with that. Do I wish I read more? Sure. I don't often account enough for is that 2 to 3 a.m. anxiety attack when you wake up. And then it always takes me a while to fall asleep. And the only thing that does it is reading. So the answer is most of the time I get the bulk of my reading done from like 2 to 4 a.m. when I'm wide awake trying to forget everything else. And it works most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. It just takes a while because get up to pee and the second one thought gets in there,
Oh, yeah.
game over.
No, last night there was a combination of things that had me not sleeping. And part of it was me thinking about how the term overstimulated is really in the mainstream right now in like mom social media culture. I don't know if that's in your feed a lot, but I
No,
see a
tell me
lot
about it.
of
I don't
like,
have a feed. Go ahead.
I see a lot of Instagram posts where there's a mom being like, POV, you're overstimulated, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just had noticed that's been in the mainstream more. And I don't know if that's just another word for like overwhelmed, or I don't know. I think overwhelmed is another word for it, but I don't know if it's like being slightly more neurodivergent friendly. So I was overstimulated and thinking about the word overstimulated. And then I was like, should I write about this or something like that? And then I was thinking about all the things that were overstimulating me at the same time. So it was like part of a meta, insomnia. So I had the last couple nights I was taking a sleeping pill before bed. And then last night I was like, I'll just go clean. And then I also had a couple Diet Cokes at this political fundraiser I went to because like I had to have something in my hand because I didn't know anyone there. So those 2 things, and I ate dinner late. So all those things probably didn't work. And then there's this extra breathing exercise that always works. And I never want to do it for some reason because it's so tedious. And it's so dumb because it's like, what else am I doing? Like everything, I'm already in bed. It's boring, but it's like this. Have you probably heard of it? It's like the 5, 6, 7 or whatever it is. Like you breathe in for 5, you hold it for 6, and you breathe out for 7. And it like slows down your heart rate and it gives you something to focus on. It's always like the last resort. Like I always try just being and then naturally falling asleep. And then I'm like, I guess I got to try the fucking sleeping, like breathing technique. And without fail, it always works. But it's just, but I don't know why I put it off, but I
Is
always
it
do.
because you feel like what is the emotion tied to it? Is it shame that it's required? Is it frustration? Is it that you don't believe it'll work this time? Because like you said, you talked about I ate late. And it's like, yeah, the number of things that have to fucking go right to get like a decent night of sleep, ridiculous, impossible. And if you told 24-year-old us, they'd be like, what are you talking about? So what do you think is your particular like psychological hold up to, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not doing that breathing. I'm not doing it.
It's just boring, and it is strangely hard because you have to pull in so much breath and then to hold it and then to let it out, slowly leak it out like a balloon. And I think my brain, my overstimulated brain is like having a temper tantrum that I had to focus on this breathing. And so I think I just resist that. And I'm not someone who meditates. I tried that for a little bit. It's just not my thing. So I don't prefer forcing myself to slow down like that. And so, yeah, it's just like a weird little temper tantrum about, whenever you have to do something that is good for you that you don't want to do, that's it. So,
But you seem
yeah.
to be a pretty devoted person to your cult, your sauna club, and other things that you do know will be better for you. Why this thing?
Why this thing? Why do I not want to do it?
Yeah, why this thing do you have such a grudge against it? I mean, I know you said it's boring, but I'm not saying your cult is boring, clearly not, especially once you guys ascend. But, you take care of yourself.
Well, that's different. It's pleasurable. Like, it's nice to sit in the
Mm-hmm.
sauna club. Like, you're come to Chicago sometime and I'm going to make you do it with me, which I would never in a million years, if I was like, I'm going to make a man come and sit with me in a swimsuit, like in a
Live
hot
episode.
box, it's wet. But it is pleasant because you're looking at the lake and you have control over yourself. And all you have to do for half an hour is either be hot or be cold. And then you're done. And then you'll have endorphins afterwards. And, sleep is one of those things where going to sleep is not as good as like having slept. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever noticed how like, why is my bed never as comfy getting into it as it is right when I've woken up? And so,
See, I got to
it's just,
disagree a little bit there. There's nothing, not my children's smiles or their love or anything, sex, that is better than getting into my bed. Fucking love it so much. I love it so much.
so we have had a good sleeping routine down for James now. And I hate to say this, like I have a lot of shame about this, but I don't read aloud to my kids anymore. This is it's like a bridge too far, but we do reading time together. So for James, he has to take a shower. He's allowed to read with me in my bed, and then he can go read some more in his bed, and then it's lights out. And this is after he gets his pill that like helps him calm his thoughts. But he gets in my bed and he like throws pillows on the floor and he's biting his nails and he's picking his nose. And takes a lot of heroic patience on my part not to be mad at him for disrupting, my throne, my
Like,
nest.
would you go into a guest's home and do that? This is an invitation to a sacred place. Why do you think you can bite your nails in someone's home? Like, it's
I
so
mean,
upsetting. I would kick my kids out so fucking fast.
I texted you about how much I hated him. I like hated him last week because he was also tired, overstimulated. Like in retrospect, we can like excuse this, but like Steve took them out to see the movie Goat. And this is after James had gotten to have a sleepover in the hotel for President's Day weekend. And he was kind of being a bastard the whole time. And while they were out, I cleaned up the house not the house, just like the main living area because it was just so cluttered. And he leaves books like this all the time. Like shit is falling out. And, I love that he reads. That's great. But it is a lot of clutter. So I'm picking up the books and I'm putting them in a pile and putting them on the stairs. And he gets home. Oh, look, here's one of his sports cards. He goes to bed and he starts grumbling that we closed up his books without putting a bookmark in there. And I was so mad. And part of the reason, like I was thinking back, I was like, the reason why we have all these books is because I read an article about if your child likes these books, they might like these books. So then I put in the library on hold, like all these other books that I thought he might like, drove my ass to the library, checked out these books, brought them home so that my child could read these books. And then he's mad at me for not saving his place when he leaves them scattered around the house. So that's what I'm working with in terms of the person who is getting in my bed. I am just like a disappointing robot who doesn't do a very good job all the time, taking care of him.
I remember once in high school, it was hot. It must have been either the beginning of the year or the end of the year, the school year. And I think I was skipping class or something, was with some friends, and we were at this local icy place, snow cone place. And I was like, I'm going to get one of these and bring it to my girlfriend. And I was like, this is romantic gestures 101. And I mean, went to all the air conditioning vents, pointed at it while we were driving all this stuff, still excited, trying to keep it going, and walked in, handed it to her, and she goes, this is melted. Not thank you. None of that. And I was like, You know what? And I'm still scarred by that.
Yeah.
First of all, fuck her.
That's
She
so
was out
funny.
immediately. But also, I was just like, what are you doing? Like, you went to go get all the books. The fact that you even read that article, like, if you had
Yeah.
stopped there, that's parenting. That's a win.
Well,
Fuckers.
because it's these like Raina Talgar graphic novels. I don't know if you are familiar with her. Their books like Smile
Yeah.
and like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And so I love that James likes to read books with like female protagonists. So I want to encourage that. And, you know, reading is good, as your shirt says. But it's so funny because like I've compared, this is very boy mom, but like I've compared having boys to like your first boyfriend, where from this girl that you're talking about, like you're so thirsty for any sign of like that they noticed you or pay attention to you. And Paul once came home with a half melted, half eaten McDonald's ice cream cone because they'd accidentally given them two when my friend took them out. So he brought me one because he knows I love McDonald's ice cream. This shit was so disgusting and melted. But I also was like, he went out and he thought of me and he could have
Sure.
eaten. And I was so pleased that he knew that he would feel ill if he'd eaten two ice creams. So I ate that disgusting semi-melted soft serve ice cream. And I'm still like, you know, so one of the nicest things he ever did for me was not eat that second ice cream.
So talk to me about how James loves those books, which are great. We've got them all folded that way throughout our house all the time, and everyone reads them. But Paul, by rule, will not watch women's sports. Tell me about that. How did they end up so different?
Well, that's not exactly true. Okay.
I'm
And
kidding,
there's
but
more to, okay. I know, I don't want to put Paul on blast. And I also want to be delicate about this because there was like a coda to this story. And I'm worried because my friends sometimes let their kid listen to the podcast. So they may hear this and react.
cut it
So
out. Great,
Megan and
whatever.
Sandy,
Just tell the story.
yeah. No, okay. Megan and Sandy, if you're listening, don't let the kids listen to this part. So Steve got home last night, picking up Paul and his friend from basketball. And Steve was all heated because tonight is the last eighth grade girls basketball game. And a lot of the girls came to the boys game and cheered Paul on. And so we were saying we should go to the girls game. And Paul and his friend were saying, absolutely not. Hard no, we're not going to go watch the girls play because they're probably going to see us there and say hi, which is, you know, in their minds, the worst thing that could possibly happen. So Steve, who I think remembers almost like too well and identifies too much with being an awkward teenager and being scared of girls, was like going hard. We're going harder now. We're going to both games. Like we're all gonna go. And Paul and his friend were like, no, and he got more. And so Steve came home like all heated, and he's like, Paul's all upset about how bad he doesn't want to go to this game. And I feel like when Steve is really pushing on that, I pull back more because I'm like, he doesn't need two parents like mortifying him. I'll just, and I remember acutely what it's like to be both like interested in boys and terrified of them at the same time. And I want to respect the terror. And so, if anything, like I think the terror is healthy and normal and sweet and it's okay. So anyway, cut to Paul coming out of the shower and smiling at me and then blood pouring out of his nose. So I texted his friend's mom about this whole exchange and she said, oh, in the car ride home yesterday from school, Paul told my son, his friend, I think someone likes me and I'll talk to you about it at the playground. So there's,
all right, some context. I got it. I got it.
yeah, exactly. And I was thinking, I was like, I'm not going to because I'm such a good mom, but I was like, I could prod and poke, or I could go through his backpack or have Steve look at his phone or ask James what he thinks. I have a slight notion, but like also at the same time, if he's not interested in that, that's fine. And I'm not going to torture him and make him talk about it. But I just was like, okay, that's context. And,
yeah, sure. There's some context. That
so-
seems like a very strong reaction without, the context. Now you're like, oh, I got it.
Yeah. And I mean, this age, so we went on this overnight with Paul's friend over the weekend, and Paul's friend, Christopher, same age as him, has a girlfriend. And what I've learned is that these two kids see each other at school and text and don't do anything else, to the point where they went to a school dance together with a group of kids. And to Christopher's mortification, his friends were all trying to get him to kiss and or dance with his girlfriend, two things he had never done. So, like that is where things are, which I think is all very age appropriate. So, I know some kids I know your kid has like more going on with his girlfriend, or at least sees her outside of school or buys her stuff, right?
Kind of. I mean, there's very little like going on from everything. Every time I have like gently broached the subject, it's like, oh, absolutely not under any condition. But I don't know. I did want to mention, you mentioned a dance and things, and it reminded me, like, I've looked at this, like, there's a Pruder film. So they had a seventh grade, it was sixth and seventh graders. So middle school, they're public middle school, sixth, seventh, eighth. But they had a sixth and seventh grade Valentine's dance. And it was at the gym, as you do. And they all got dressed up, which is cute. I don't remember us doing that, but I don't recall having them around holidays of any kind. Someone, they all had their phones there, of course, and you don't usually get to have them at school. And someone had a picture, and it was like him and his girlfriend. And I looked at it and I was like, that's so weird. Like all the lights are on in the gym. And I thought, oh, it must have been at the end of the night. Someone took a picture because he looked all sweaty and stuff. I looked at the timestamp and it's 40 minutes into this 2-hour thing. All the lights are on. And I was like, that's interesting. Do you remember all the lights being on for yours? Or, I mean, we grew up obviously in, the dark ages, but quite literally, but ours were not on.
No, well, we didn't have those kind of parties like at the gym. We had a cool friend whose mom would like kind of old fashioned, like roll up the rugs and push back the couches. And we would have like boy girl sort of dance parties. And
But this was like a school sponsored thing. This wasn't.
Oh, no, we didn't have school sponsored dances. I don't think we did that. Yeah.
I didn't ever assume there would be any dancing, much less like any sort of commiserating.
Oh, we
of
did
any
slow
kind,
dancing. Yeah. And in fact, I remember at my friend Dwayne Lewis's birthday party, this is before we started mixing, but all the boys were upstairs watching NBA highlight videos and the girls were all in the basement dancing to Milli Vanilli. And we were slow dancing like this, literally. With our hands on the neck of an invisible boy going like that, practicing dancing.
Leave some room for Jesus.
All the room. Yeah. I mean, I may have dances at the school and the boy, and the kids are like mortified and aren't around each other. I remember like, what was the most, interaction you'd had with the girl up to 9th grade? Like how experienced were you, if you feel comfortable saying?
Not much. I mean, I had a couple girlfriends. Again, let's use the operative word. There's a label and then there's the mechanics of the whole thing. There were not a lot of mechanics to it,
Had you kissed or gone on a date or anything like that?
Where was I going to go? Walk down the street? I mean, I think I did. There's a boy and a girl on my swim team who liked each other and wanted to go to a movie, and they each needed, per their parents, to bring someone else with them. And so my date was now one of my best friend's wives. And I remind him all of the time that his wife's first date was me.
Wow.
So Drew, if you're listening, don't forget. Never forget. Pretty great. And we went and saw, you know what I think? I might be wrong. I think we went and saw Selena. Do you remember
Of course.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good. Heartbreaking. I didn't know the story at all. Heartbreaking. Oh, no. It was Men in Black. Selena was another time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. My first date movies were The Pelican Brief with John Seyfried at a movie theater that's not closed, and John is out and has been for a long time. And Ben McCann and I saw The Nightmare Before Christmas in the theater.
Oh,
so those
so
were
great. Still holds up.
Yeah. My school was so small. So it was like, it was such a small grade that I don't even remember. I think there were a couple of people who saw each other, but it was a lot of cachet for me that at summer camp we had a dance and I slow dance with the boy and who did not go to our school. And I was fizzing about it on the way home. And my friend Paula, who just texted me like before we got on the call, she said, put a sock in it, Claire, because I wouldn't stop talking about it. So that was like the most. I didn't have a real kiss, I don't think, until high school, maybe. It's such a cringe time of life, but I know for some kids, they're there already. But
let me ask this, because I think the dynamics do matter, because again, it can seem almost incestuous. Like, how small was your school?
Our class is 40 kids, I think, max.
Your total
grade
grade was 40 kids?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a completely different fucking story. Like, I feel like each of our classes, our classrooms was 23 kids, and we probably had 10 of those,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and then I went to a high school where my grade was 600 kids. So it was like quite there was
the whole world opens up.
Well, and it was funny because like I went to Catholic school, and I mean, there were some differences. but the kids were sort of all like the same things and sort of were all, I don't know, we all knew each other extremely well. And then
Hmm.
the summer before freshman year of high school, I was at camp and there was a boy who I was so surprised to have a crush on because he had long, greasy hair and he wore a fedora and he wrote poetry and he wore combat boots. And I was like, he's so like dark and mysterious and
Fucking perfect.
like no one understands. And I remember like oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I walked up to him at night at whatever, like hangouts, and I said, I think I like you. And he said, that's cool. And I found out later on he was like finger banging one of the other girls up
Sure.
at camp. But
Hmm.
I thought I was like the only one who saw this in him. And then, of course, years later, it was
He's
like all the
slaying.
girls. Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Like absolute, just drowning in it. And so, and it made you feel like, I made me feel so basic. Like, I really thought I like was onto something there. So yeah. Anyway, but what's funny is that this guy is like
Mm.
a dad. He's like all the other dads in the world. And a friend and I from high school were like, how did he turn out so boring and so basic and so disappointing? But I guess he still doesn't wear like a fedora with a playing card in the band that indicates his mood. That was something
Sure,
he
sure.
did.
Yeah, yeah. No, man, setting the tone. That's amazing.
Yeah. There's not a lot of that at the Catholic school, believe it or not.
But
Not
it's
a lot of those
impossible
guys.
if it's the same 20, 30 people every day, like there's nowhere to hide.
No, and that was such a mainstream time of life. We all kind of liked Michael Jordan. We all liked Belle Biv DeVoe.
Mhm.
Like we all went to the mall. This is pre-internet. Some kids had TV or cable. Or some kids were different races or different socioeconomic. But we all kind of went to the same church, same jokes. Knew each other like a little bit too well. So I always tell Paul, high school is going to open up so much for him because he's going to see so many different kinds of people, which can be exciting and scary, and but you never know. But I don't blame him for being terrified or overwhelmed by the prospect. Because like it's not only when you go to such a small school like that, like if someone likes you, everyone knows about it then, and
Immediately.
everyone's talking about it, and they're all saying you should ask so and so out or whatever. So I'm gonna let Steve be the one. Well, I might tell Steve to leave him alone also. We'll see how it goes. He's a nice kid, despite the nosebleeds. And
Sink full of blood. Let me ask you this. You had it in the notes. Does Catholic school require you to give something up for Lent?
no, you do have to get ashes, which the kids got yesterday, and I think must have wiped them off by the time they got home. And I was surprised because Steve took James out for dinner last night, and James, to his chagrin, realized that you are supposed to fast on the first day of Lent, and he had a hamburger at dinner, and then he also remembered that he had a hamburger at lunch that day as well. And I was kind of surprised that the Catholic school gave them meat. I don't care. I don't believe in the meat
Yeah.
thing. I think it's a scam. But yeah, they were like, "What are we giving up for Lent?" And I'm not giving up anything this year. Last year I gave up social media and I was like, I needed to promote the podcast. So obviously I can't. And also life is hard enough. But I said, why don't you try giving up eating candy on weekdays? And I got a hard no with that one. So my perfect angels are not giving anything up. I suggested maybe you can do something, like pick something, add something to your life, but they're not going to. And I don't know. I can't enforce all this stuff. We got enough going on.
You asked in the outline, what would I give up? And I thought back to this week, a couple childhood friends and I were chit-chatting on our app. And apropos of nothing except for just life, I said to them, last week on the show, Claire asked me what I used to do for fun that I can't do anymore, and I didn't even have an answer. And I was like, what would I give up for? There's nothing to give up. There's nothing left to give up. Like my fucking water bottle I take everywhere.
Your gummies. Would you give up your gummies?
Would my family want me to give up my gummies? Are you kidding me? You know what a nightmare? They would give me up
It's just
the next day. No, I can't. Those
just
aren't for
like
pleasure.
freebasing life.
Why would I ever do that? No, what would I give up?
Ask your family what they would pick for you. I bet they have something that they would
Oh, I'm sure
say,
they
like
do.
you. Yeah, I would give up maybe ordering in food, although I'm not really that bad about it current. We'll see. That's something that could be like, I feel like life has given me enough to work with like the last couple months, so I'm not gonna worry about it too much. And I also just, put all these apps on my phone to keep me from being online and wasting time and whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. They can have it. All right, so one of my kids unexpectedly had baseball tryouts 1 second after a 3-week ice storm in the middle of
Mm.
February. And then to his credit, he made the team. And all of a sudden, my other two are, seasonal, but he's got 1,000. He's the older one. So he's got piano and he's in a brass band and he's in jazz band and school, but he's also swim season's got a couple weeks left, which is kind of why I thought baseball wasn't here yet. And then they're like, practice is starting. It's every day after school for a couple hours, this and that. I was like, fuck, okay. And, coaches he doesn't know, I haven't even met this and this. And I thought about that all happened while you were furious at your children because they didn't understand why you were collecting cash for their coaches. And so I wanted to just talk about coaches and what they do and the good ones and how they don't get anything out of it except for parents yelling at them, except for you who
Yeah.
go above and beyond.
Well, also yesterday, I got a text from the track coach because Paul is doing track, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure he's doing it because the track kids get a hoodie with their last name on the back, and that's very
Of
like,
course.
yeah, it has a lot of cachet. And Paul has no hoodies whatsoever, so
Mm,
it's imperative that we get him
deprived.
one. So
Sure.
yeah, and his coach is supposed to be great, and it's kind of funny. Paul was worried about being the slowest, and I was like, "Who's the slowest kid in the school?" And he couldn't name it. And I was like, "See, so if you're the slowest, no one will know." And then just as context, on the way to school today, I was driving, and as you can imagine, like signing the kids up for sports is like this intense weave of planning and hoping and just giving up,
Hmm.
and so for the spring, Paula is going to do track and volleyball, and James is going to do tennis and volleyball. And then on the way to school, their friends were saying, they were saying things like, "Oh, I wish I'd maybe done golf," or "I wish I wasn't doing volleyball," and like "summer baseball is so fun." And then that led into like memories of like their best plays or like their worst plays, just like the most shooting the shit guy, like, the good old days of sports where I was like, you all are idiots. And also, fuck you for like, you want to golf? Like, you've never ever, like, I asked you a million times what you would have wanted to do, and you've never mentioned that. And also, they said that spring baseball is too cold. I'm like, so if spring baseball is too cold, what do you think golf is? Like, that is also like 3 hours of standing outside. Anyway, all that aside, basketball is allegedly ending this week as long as they don't go in the playoffs. And their coach does not work for the school. He's not a parent. I don't know where he comes from or how the school gets him. That's none of my business. But he works with the boys and he also has a job at Jimmy John's, I know. And I think, and Paul says he might be a parent, might have kids. And I know this coach makes the boys run all the time, which I love. Like Paul
Hmm.
will come home really mad because they had to run suicides. And I'm like, good. And also I'm like, it's basketball. Like you have to, like, running is a pretty big part of it. Anyway, I asked the moms like an idiot. I was like, is anyone coach like collecting a gift for the coach to say thank you? And everyone was like, no, but I would like chip in if someone did. And I was like, all right, it's my turn. So, and it's not that big a deal. Like you just give people your Venmo and you add the money, you go to Target. But like,
Yeah.
sometimes just like having that responsibility is weighs on you. So anyway, I told Paul, I was like, I'm going to get a gift for coach. What do you think he would like? He's like, you're going to what? I was like, get, a thank you gift for coach. He's like, for coach? And I said, yeah. I said, parents do this for a lot of the teachers. I would help run the parent teacher gift fund, which is a whole other shit show going on right now. You would think I don't know, revealed like a whole other room in the house that he'd never discovered before. Like he seemed like he had never heard of this in his entire life, that people would collect money to say thank you, with a gift card to a
Was it
coach or a teacher.
surprise or was he like aghast?
Both. And I felt the same way. Like I was so upset because I also was like unloading the dishwasher at the moment and unpacking from like the hotel trip I'd taken him on, that I had to go lay
Hmm.
down because all of this at once was just like made me so exhausted. And then the internet went out, which was like, that was always just like
Hmm.
the turd on the shit Sunday. But yeah, I was like, how did this must have been a blind spot in our parenting that we didn't tell them about this like extra part of it all, that these, they're hurting you assholes. Like the practices go until 10 o'clock at night, and they're going to the suburbs and all this crap. And I mean, I guess it's not a kid's responsibility to know like what parents do to thank their coaches and stuff, but I just couldn't, I was just blown away that he somehow I had missed all this. And by the way, he gave me no advice. So I went to Target, and I know we're boycotting Target, but I was like, the coach can buy anything he wants there.
Yep.
So
Sure.
there's that.
I tried to think back if I recalled being aware of that, because we all do that here too, of course, right? It's the right thing to do, obviously. And it's the right thing to do. One, like you said, these are people who are making our kids tired. I'll give you any amount of money for that, right? Two, and this is the part, again, the line of like when and where do you and how early do you let the kids understand? Coach also works at Jimmy John's. Coach is either a parent who is doing this for nothing. A lot of times they're a teacher, and I don't know how this works at your guys' schools, who's doing it because it's like an extra $20 fucking dollars, right? That's a lot of the public school, like the after school activities. You go, oh, this is what's for us. That's the coach. That's great. I'm like, yeah, someone else has to watch her kid because her kid's now home from school an hour earlier because she's trying to make 40 extra bucks for your fucking run club where you do not run. You signed up for. You had a choice of all the different fucking things. You signed up, you don't run, you're mad about it. And yeah, she puts up. Like, when and where do you yell at them about that? It's getting earlier and earlier for me. I feel like for those sort of things where I just do it. I don't know if is it the opposite of a Claire drive-by where I kind of go, stop. Here's the deal. I'm going to break some shit to you real quick, which is your coach makes $20,000 a year. And they're like, oh, what is that? I'm like, let me fucking break that down to you. Now let me tell you how much shit costs. And I'm doing all this on the way home, again, from whatever, because I'm like, I'm done with you not comprehending the world. I need you to have a fucking understanding, whether you're like, dad's being a dick right now. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, we're doing it. And now I'm going to take $5 out of your fucking dummy bank, and it's going to go in the coach's fund too. So you can say a proper thank you, you dickhead. I don't know. I just see it all these parents do everything for nothing. Or again, it's like a third party, like your coach, who, like you said, is coming into the suburbs to do this shit.
Did you, when you were a kid, I mean, I hate to do this, but did your parents like do that kind of stuff for the school, and did you appreciate
Well,
it?
that's what I mean. I don't really know. I need to ask them that. I should ask them that. I suspect that they did. Like you said, it's easier now because here's the thing. All the parents are on a group chat or emails. We have Venmo. It's like you said, it's a burden to be the one who's like, okay, I'll do it. But I imagine easier than 1987, right? Like, how would you get all of the parents and how would you alert them all to everything? One place you're going to print up fucking pamphlets?
You would have no job. I mean, that was my mom.
Well, right.
She like helped put together my kids' former school was like these two churches, like these two schools kind of blended together. And she was a big part of like the school board, and she would do these fundraisers that were like very legendary at the time. There was one called Record a Hit, which is an earlier version of karaoke, but like parents would sing a song. They'd get drunk and they'd sing a song, and then you'd get a tape afterwards. I should find this somewhere. We have a version of my dad singing Mac the Knife somewhere that was like legendarily bad. And there was silent auction. So I would go in the basement and I would look at the stuff. I remember seeing like a big pair of gym shoes I think signed by Craig Robinson, who played for the Bulls at the time. I used to just assume it was one of those like things you just absorbed as a mom, and then you get older and you're like, fuck, this takes a lot of time and energy and what we call like transformational organizational change and management skills. And, you start to appreciate more. This doesn't just happen out of whole cloth. It's not just something you don't just like, do it on the way to whatever it is. And at the time, actually, the kids used to go to the same school that I went to that my mom helped work with. And that gave me a lot of extra pressure in terms of feeling like I had to do the same amount of stuff for the school.
Sure.
James had his ADHD issues. So I felt this like level of shame that I was like, he's causes some trouble that, like I feel like we have a responsibility not to. So now we go to this other school where I did not, not a part of it, but the irony, like the kick in the head is that the parents are way more involved than at my old school and way more, not involved, there's just more constant parties and fundraisers and, let's stock the teacher's lounge and twice a year, let's all raise money for the teachers to have an extra cash bonus, which is great and important. But like, you just realize you're like, this isn't just some little extra bullshit, that I'll do while I'm like while I'm sleeping or something like that. So
Hmm.
will kids ever appreciate that? Like when I was screaming at James about him taking me for granted and all the work that I do, I could tell how I don't know what the word is, how like pointless it was because I started going on a rant about like how I used to be somebody, like how I am someone, and I was like, what's the fucking point? No kid has ever been like, wow, I really respect my mom as a human being. And I'm sorry
Right.
for wasting her time. And what a special thing it is that she got me books from the library. Kids don't think like that.
No,
But
but that
I don't know
doesn't
if you
mean you
ever
don't
start.
need to get it out, right?
I mean, does Dana do that? Or you do that for Dana? If your kids treat Dana like a doormat, or you're like, she is an Oscar nominated
Mm.
screenwriter, and
I
you
don't deal
guys
with it well.
are.
I don't deal with it well. They've, I think, learned that a little bit. That is like, yeah, it's not, it wouldn't go great. It has happened and it wouldn't go great should it happen again. I would so much rather you fucking, I don't know, do something else you're not allowed to do. I mean, here's the thing, like youth sports in the US are in such a downward spiral for a lot of reasons. One, most parents and teachers and people who would be involved in coaching already have either one job in a family or two jobs in a family. They do not have time to volunteer. Two, we have basically professionalized most of the youth sports and they all cost $5,000 a year, right? A season. So immediately you're cutting out most of the kids, right? And then they'll say, well, it's 100% attendance required. And you're like, they're nine. Those coaches might be making some more. But in between, it's like the middle class thing. There's not a lot left. I mean, last year I had to volunteer to coach Henry's baseball team, which I only did. I coached swimming when the kids were little. I taught swim lessons my whole life. I coached baseball. Love all that. I didn't want to do it with my kids because I didn't want to ruin it for them because I'm self-aware that I'm a fucking dickhead. But they were like, we will not be able to have a league unless three more dads sign up or parents, whatever. So I did. And you realize, yeah, this is entirely volunteer run. Like there's nothing happening. And this is like the last version of essentially rec sports for these things. And so when you do that math, we go, if they're able to volunteer, it's for the love of the game, the love of their kid, or because they are somehow economically able to do it, right? Because otherwise, they're not making anything. So when I do look at the like my kids' swim team, like you said, same team I swam for. In fact, for however much longer, their head coach is my old head coach. I discovered recently, and this is like their job. This is not associated with the school. This is not rec. This is like kind of all year stuff, and it's not in a positive way. It's not the most like cutthroat team. If your kids, I also want to play volleyball in the fall, they're like, great, have fun. Go get them. When you're here, take it seriously, but totally get it. I found out how much they make. My buddy was on the board, and it's so upsetting because here's the thing: when you're doing that is your job, and you actually don't have time to do anything else, but you're making so little that, like we were saying, it's so much easier now to just again email them demo or text, fucking whatever, or to just literally drive into CVS and be like, here's a rack of gift cards, stuff that didn't exist when we were growing up. That if you have the means to be able to just get one, again, Target, who fucking cares? Jimmy John's, whatever. It will be helpful because they will take anything. Because when you do the math on how much they make to spend that time with your kids, who, by the way, it's the end of the school day, they're pieces of shit, they're not paying attention, right? They're making them tired and they're trying to do something. I always tell my kids, if your teacher is there because they want to do it, they're not there for the money. Your coach is there because they want to do this. They are not there for the money because I know how much they make and it's not feasible anymore. So that's kind of my answer to, I don't know if my parents did. I don't know. I know it's pretty common here, but that is when I would do an anti-Claire drive-by and just stop my kids and be like, let me tell you what's up. Let me tell you like what they make for every minute you and your friends won't stop dicking around while they're trying to teach you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my rant on it, which is just, I don't know how else you save youth sports or theater, fucking whatever. No one's doing it because they're making a bunch of fucking money.
Yeah, no, I do the school newspaper club, although I make Steve do it actually a lot of times because I don't want to take my kids to school at 7:30 in the morning. And, it's a lot of it is it's like picking up trash, or like intercepting the kids when they're like fourth in line to ask the teacher something. I'm like, what can I help you with? And that's like, how do you spell autumn, or something like
Yeah.
that? Or can I go to the bathroom? Yes. I don't know why you're asking me, but
Yeah.
sure, go for it. Did you, when you were coaching baseball, did you get any parents, who were or other coaches who were assholes that you had to deal with or, who were heated?
In the old days or last year?
Either way.
Old days for sure. I didn't care because I was 17. Like I just didn't listen to anybody. Last year there were some, but I will say, and maybe I'll put this in a Google sheet or something and we can share it. I wrote a fucking letter to start the season to all the parents. Never met any of them. Never met their kids or anything. And it was like, hey, here's who I am. Here's my like quote unquote qualifications. Here's how it's gonna go. And I was very clear about it. The point being, these are children who are 9. And it turns out, by the way, half my team was like 8. I had them raise their hands. I was like, Jesus. I was like, this is not about you. Your child is to be on time. And if they're late, I'm going to assume it's your fault because you're a fucking adult who can drive. And if not, you need to communicate. Here's the little app we're all using. I am responsible. Communication above everything else. And I said, if you coach from the sideline, I will ask you to go sit farther away. If you criticize them during a practice or game from the sideline, I will stop it, the whole thing, and I will just ask you to leave. I was like, I just want everyone to understand how the fuck this is going to go. And they were pretty good. I showed up at the first practice 1 minute late, of course, because my kids, and everyone was there ready to go. They had a water bottle, they had all this shit. And I was like, yeah, we're not fucking around. That's what I'm taking seriously so that it can be youth sports because I'm not doing it, guys. We're here to have fun. Kids are like, who's winning this or this? I was like, who cares? You made a great play. We're having a great time. Not perfect about it, but I've learned enough from it that I'm like, we're doing this. And they gave me a couple little gift cards at the end. I'm very lucky. I don't need those, but I was like, thank you. I'm spending the time with your kids. It's great. But like, I do feel like you have to protect it because I think parents are like, well, we've been told we have to take this shit more and more seriously. Or as we've talked about, someone is attempting to live through their child, which is always the worst version of the whole thing.
My cousin's husband coaches baseball, and it's like, I think it's a pretty like good league. They take it pretty seriously. And the son, a friend of mine's son is in the league and or is on his team. And I said, oh, Jacob. And he said, oh yeah. He said, Jacob's a good, really good pitcher. And he's like, don't tell him I said because he doesn't want Jacob to know how good he is, I guess. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a coach thing. But one of my favorite moments from last season, James is very competitive and self-centered, and I think has had to learn how to be a team player, literally. And last year, his pediatrician was his team's coach, which I thought was funny because I was like, how many of these kids' penises has this coach team?
All of them.
Like probably more than most.
All of them. Yep.
But the coach would give the kid, like a kid, a game ball at the end and give them all a speech about why this kid deserved the game ball. And James had some kind of good game, but the ball went to some other kid for whatever reason. And James was so mad. He was so salty about it. And he's like, I deserve that game ball. And I was like, I'm like, it's your team. Like, you should be happy. You think like Scottie Pippen was mad that he played with Michael Jordan? Like, you should be glad that there's more than one good player on the team. And James eventually got a game ball for whatever reason, but I was like, that's good coaching because that coach knew how much James wanted that and thought he deserved it and like absolutely iced him out.
And just said, for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had to teach him things like how to ask if someone's okay when they got hurt because he wouldn't do that, like just things like where you're ashamed as a parent and then, but you're like, this is all part of it.
But that's the beauty of, again, like it doesn't have to be sports, but I do think sports teaches a lot, but so does theater and playing part of a band, like a concert band, whatever the fuck it is. You're part of a unit and you got to both carry your weight, but also like care about her participants. Otherwise no one wants you to be there. And you're going to learn that shit because guess what? That's fucking life is you have to be able to be a human being.
Yeah. Oh man, my friend's kid is right now on 3 different basketball leagues. I think one of them is ending, 1 or 2 of them is ending, but one of the feeder teams, if they can't make a game for like very legitimate reasons like school or another game, like they have to send a text with, I think, 2 written out sentences explaining why they're missing the game, which is like, these kids are 13, but I'm grateful to have kids who like to do sports. And I'm also grateful that we know our limits time wise, and like we're not getting sucked into the whole machine of it all. The travel baseball thing just drives me crazy because it's like the coach coincidentally runs a camp, that kind of whole thing. And, I'm glad we have a park nearby that the kids just want to go shoot. Like the best thing Steve bought the kids was, I'm looking at it right now, basketball hoop in the driveway. That
It's great.
is really all you need,
Yeah. There's some great like youth sports accounts out there, just parents and coaches who are really trying to like fight back and preserve it for what it should be. Understand that obviously, everything is imperfect, but at one point, Charlotte played volleyball. She really liked it. She was really into it. Rec. And then the season ended, as it does. And of course, she said no to everything else we suggested. And there is a year-round volleyball team club here. And again, like, I'm aware of how it all goes. And in LA, it's a nightmare. And this everywhere has their own shit, But I looked it up. And again, it was $5,000 a season, 100% mandatory for ages 10 years old. And I told her, I said, we're not doing this for a host of reasons. One, you will never make 100% attendance. Two, I don't want you doing it every day because I want you to have free time to fucking read a book or do something else or hang with a friend or with me or play a game. I was like, and two, I'm not paying that. And three, on fucking principle, I think that sucks. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
It's fucking volleyball.
No.
Like that's
How far
crazy.
are you going to go with that? Like I was shocked. I spoke with an evil witch. It's taken me months to work on this, but I'm doing a witches on moms who lift heavy weights. And there's one lady I spoke with who was a pro volleyball player, which I thought was fascinating. But like, that's not, you don't know all of those. But yeah, I was mad at Paul because I convinced James to try volleyball. And Paul was in the car saying how much he wishes he wasn't playing volleyball. And I was like, P.S., you're one of the better players on the team. Like, for some reason, he's kind of good at volleyball. And he's like, and it hurts. I was like, can you not, like, serve, no pun intended, serve this up for him, like, a shitty, negative thing to, like, not be excited about? Thank you. Spike, that's not, can
you ride that all day. Yeah, but, no, it's crazy.
Yeah, do you want to know a drive-by, like a sports-related, semi-sports-related drive-by I gave to James?
Oh, please.
The other day?
I love that. They bring me such joy.
I had a People magazine. This one was not that unrelated, but I had a People magazine out, and they had an article about Timothy Busfield, the guy from the dickhead brother-in-law from Field of Dreams. The one
yeah.
Are you familiar with what he's been up to lately?
No.
Molesting little boys, literally.
Really?
So, yeah.
Watch Field of Dreams again. Yeah. That tracks.
Anyway, so there's an article about him. So James was like, who's this guy? He was like doing what with little boys? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and if anyone ever touches you or asks you to see your penis, like whether it's an old man or a young kid, you tell me and you won't get in trouble. And he was like, okay. And then I went about whatever it is that I do the rest of the time.
But that's a semi-appropriate one. You've got an in, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. He wasn't like playing Legos and you told him, don't touch your dick in public.
Yeah, not quite a drive-by. There was a transition kind of phase, but yeah.
But that also, one thing that I bet has fundamentally changed since you and I were kids is now, to coach in most places for youth or whatever, 50 forms and background checks to do the things. They really don't fuck around with this, which is great. That doesn't, again, you're getting people who, if they want to go through that, it's great. And more power to them, and they should get a fucking Target gift card.
We had to go sit in person for like a anti-molestation training to volunteer in the Catholic schools. And it's pretty insulting, especially when we just got an email a couple weeks ago, one got by, they let one by this one guy. I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny at all, but you need gallows humor. But this guy was found in the archdiocese and he had been kicked out and he got back in, changing his name. And I was like, gotta give it to him. He really he knew what he wanted and nothing was going to stop him from getting in there and molesting some kids. Yeah. But I was like, why are we the ones who have to take these seminars that are don't ever, it's it's appropriate to touch a child on his shoulder or his head, things like that. We're like, why would I want to touch a kid? Why do I want to touch my own kids?
I don't want to touch my own kids.
So No, I don't need anything like that. But yeah, anyway, yeah, a couple bad apples ruins it for everyone who's just begrudgingly trying to help. And you're like, now I have to show, do a multiple choice. Like Catholic Church is so, on the one hand, they don't know. All I know is that they somehow have the technology to make videos that you cannot speed through and you can't scrub. Like you have to watch this whole video and then take a quiz at the end. And you're like, how
Hmm.
can they do this?
Hmm.
And they still don't know how to, I don't know, all the other things
Keep the
like,
diddlers out.
provide it. Yeah, exactly. How put more effort into screening the bad guys and like less into making sure that I watch this video.
Anyways, buy gift cards for the coaches that don't diddle your kids.
Yes, indeed. And make your boys go to the girls' games, especially if the girls go to the
100%.
boys' games.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You don't have to fucking talk to them. Just be there.
Yeah. It's funny when we were at the hotel, Paul and his friend were throwing a football around in the pool and they were feeling pretty good about themselves because there were some younger kids there that they were also throwing the ball to, which, just makes them feel like as Paul would go like this. And there's three girls there about Paul and Christopher's age. I kept calling them the hotties, like, but these hotties were playing sports with them too. And so we were asking the boys like, oh, are the girls like, and Christopher's like, yeah, they're pretty chill. And this was what could be better than being a chill girl, which I'm not. I don't think I ever have been, but you know,
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like watching the Nature Channel.
yeah. I mean, I'm happy if it's true. I hope a girl likes Paul, like just because it's a relief that if you raise a boy who is acceptable to another human being, you're like, what a relief, but also I feel for him. If this is true and like he feels in that pressure and like he's not ready for it, I don't like, it's not for us to be like, no, get into it. Like,
Go mate. Yes, go choose it.
yeah,
Right, you're a man
go
now.
kiss her in front
Right.
of everyone and write her a
Right.
note and, show up at her house with a rose.
Right.
You don't have to,
Hold a
like,
box over your head.
yeah. Oh God, he'd be like, what's a boombox?
Head to notrightnow.show for more, or send us feedback, questions, horror stories, doxing, whatever it is, at questions@notrightnow.show.